However, Disney's capacity to have Disneyland constructed cannot be understated. Beyond Walt Disney's fascination with the mythical land of Tartary, Walt Disney, who was not an artist himself and could never actually draw, had another skill entirely: the ability to organize an army of builders. More than his part as figurehead, he was the leader of a great team that worked to uncover the secrets of how the Great Lost Civilization had existed and functioned. So, don't underestimate the architects, because it does take a certain amount of hubris in order to know the tools without hurting yourself. And I bring this up because clearly Walt Disney knew the tools, or at least enough about where they were, in order that they let him do this for so long. Because maybe somehow his understanding of this technology gave him the right, according to somebody at least. But inspired by the World Fair and his personal interest in Tartaria, Walt Disney decided to build Disneylandia, starting of course with Main Street, which led up to his own Disney Castle. And he called it Anytown, USA. And supposedly Anytown, USA is modeled on his hometown Marceline, Missouri, but we'll get back to that later. And Walt Disney had Anaheim's orange groves dug out, and he had tunnels put in, and some parts flooded with moats and crocodiles, surrounding his temples. And he began reconstructing these great cities that had been lost. And though Disney is known for a lot of ride creation today, originally Disney spent most of its time in construction and assembly of other amusement rides which they had purchased from other parks. Walt Disney's favorite was the monorail, which he had seen at the World's Fair and had needed to have, and had purchased and let sit for a decade waiting. And the monorail is a very interesting piece of technology. With the use of free-floating magnets, monorails may be our future trains. Lightweight, high-speed monorails may very well become our future as well, if we can only understand how to put them together, if we can only understand well enough how these things work. And that brings us into WED Enterprises, Walt Disney Imagineering Research and Development Incorporated. And WED was another company that Walt Disney had designed in order to build his technologies. And the employees of WED Enterprises were not called engineers, they were Imagineers. And the achievements of these alchemical Imagineers cannot be understated. In fact, the Imagineers exist to this day and continue to influence our society in untold ways, releasing all sorts of technologies into the mainstream, such as cryptocurrencies and facial recognition software. In fact, some of the earliest work on fingerprints indexing done for forensics for the intelligence was the conception and production of WED Enterprise Imagineers under defense and intelligence contracts with the United States government. And I suppose it's an open secret that the Disney company has an obsession with occult symbolism, however, particularly with revealing occult symbolism, not so much with keeping it hidden. Or at least up until recently, or at least up until post-Disney. However, there is a very big difference between the Walt Disney Company of Walt Disney and the Walt Disney Company of today.